what did I miss?
Good morning, Morgan County and the community. Welcome. It's time for the Partnerships Positive Podcast. Thank you, Isaac Hott, for sharing Abblasen with us on electric guitar. Let's get started with our host. I'm Mrs. Hott, and we have a special guest filling in for our Miss Shema today. It's our Possum Audiobook host, Violet. Hey there, Violet. Want to say hello?
Sure. Hi, community. I'm Violet Hott. While home for the summer, I'm your audiobook host, reading I'm Still Here by Austin Channing Brown. And today, I'm excited to join our podcast.
And also here today with Positive Parenting and Families, we have the one and only Nikki Coles.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Partnerships Positive Podcast.
The Morgan County Partnership joins you weekly for an exciting look at positive programs, news, and features to help build empathy, foster core values, health, and wellness in our homes, community, and around the world.
Whether you are 2 or 92, each new positive podcast will feature fun and exciting information to help you manage and balance life here in Morgan County, West Virginia, and beyond.
And we are so happy to offer weekly core value discussions to help us build stronger families.
Let's get started. All right, guys. Starting off with the positive precept today. Let me ask you guys this. How y'all been? Do anything fun over the 4th? It's hard to believe it's already July, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, we watched some fireworks and cooked out.
Yeah, we did too. Hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill. And you know what, Miss Nikki? Over here at our house, we have been glued to the new Disney Plus. And last weekend, they released the Broadway show Hamilton. And that's what we've been up to, right, Violet? Watching a little Hamilton?
Yep.
And in fact,
I watched that too.
Yay! Did you like it?
I loved it. Because you were so excited, and I've heard you talk about it for so long, I was super excited to watch it. And I can't wait to watch it again.
Oh, it's a great show. And in fact, guys, we began today's podcast featuring a verse from the song What Did I Miss? It's performed by David Diggs, who plays Thomas Jefferson. Now, David also plays the teacher from the movie Wonder. And that's where we find our positive precepts or quotes for every day of the year about courage, friendship, love, and kindness.
Let's continue with today's positive precept. This week it is from passidon.com. Here it is. I believe it is our responsibility to show our communities the value of all people, to celebrate different, and to take a stand for acceptance and inclusion.
That's beautiful. Inclusion, what do you guys think it means?
I think just to be able to accept all people. Everybody wants to be included, so.
And showing that in our community, that's a positive action to show inclusion. Right, Violet? This quote that you said, I believe it is our responsibility to show our communities the value of all people, to celebrate differences, and take a stand for acceptance and inclusion. It's by Judy Foudy. Miss Nikki, can you tell us who she is?
Yes, it's Julie Maureen Foudy, and she is an American retired soccer midfielder, 2-time FIFA Women's World Cup champion, and Olympic gold medalist. She played for the United States Women's National Soccer Team from 1987 to 2004.
Wow. Her words inspire all people of the world to celebrate our differences, make a stand to accept everyone, and to include everybody. Hey guys, that's our next positive action word of the week.
Yes, inclusion, and it begins in our homes, our neighborhoods, and our world.
It does, Miss Nikki. And with technology, our world is available at the touch of a button, right? And for our positive action word this week, we feature inclusion at home and in our community. And I feel like inclusion begins with our own families and neighborhoods, and especially letting our children know how important it is.
Let's listen to this.
Inclusion is just walking up to someone and being yourself.
Inclusion, let's pass it on, like 18-year-old Sarah Grecian.
My twin brother Jacob has an autism spectrum disorder. He didn't have any friends.
So Sarah took action. She started Score a Friend.
Including people with differences is the right thing to do.
Inclusion is in you. Now pass it on from PassItOn.com.
That was Possum. What positive programs do we have coming up in our neighborhood this week?
Well, okay, like David Diggs' song, here are our upcoming Morgan County Show programs because we don't want our families, friends, and community to miss a thing. It's all about inclusion. Our next positive action word, inclusion.
What do you think summer STEAM kits will do with the word inclusion this week, Miss Angie?
Well, I guess we'll find out on the next video for Moto Monday's broadcast. Summer STEAM kits include science fun with new hands-on activities every week all summer. Now, kids, you'll get your materials delivered from summer in your weekly meal kits from the Morgan County schools on those deliveries. Then what happens on Tuesday?
We have Tucked In Story Time. For July 14th, we have the Do-Over Day with Miss Nikki. And for a new PBS Race and Diversity book series, I will be reading Lupita Nyong'o's Sulwe.
Oh, that's a beautiful story, guys. Just wait till you see the artwork in this book. Thank you, Violet, for introducing us to beautiful stories that feature women and children of color. The Morgan County Partnership's Race and Diversity series is so important to help us all build better understanding, inclusion, and empathy. And now, according to the Yale experts, they say this: what children learn, hear, and witness from family members, friends, and others in their communities about race plays a major role in how they view people who are different from them.
Right, PBS provides excellent resources to help communities to discuss race issues, and especially supports the value of educating children early.
That's right. Kids are never too young to talk about race and diversity. And these conversations will help change the world. Then on Wednesdays, Positive Yoga for Kids with Lacey. She is looking for your yoga poses too.
And on Thursdays, stay tuned for Miss Nikki's Positive Parent PSA feature for families on social media.
And Thursdays for the rest of the summer, Violet returns with more PBS race and diversity stories. Now, after Soul, we will share the book I Am Enough by Grace Byers next week. And each story finishes with a Let's Talk About It question time for families. Following that, on Fridays, we have our Positive Podcast every week where you can join us for a new audiobook chapter, Positive Stories and Community Talent.
And coming back this month is our Morgan County Partnership social worker, Miss Mandy. She will host Art Week 3, full of great activities, connect families at home, and build unity.
Also, stay tuned for a new feature with Miss Mandy signing our positive action words. This fun video will feature my friend Kat McLaughlin, who will sign the Kids' Creed for us. And finally, stay connected. Get our Morgan County Partnership free mobile app. Go to Apple Store or Google Play.
And this July, community, when you load the Morgan County Partnership app, you could win AirPods or a grocery gift card from Food Lion.
That is awesome. Just look for the app, free QR codes on social media and in-store windows all around Morgan County. Tag us with hashtag JoinMCPApp, and we'll have 2 winners, one for middle high school age and one for adults.
Wow, guys, next week's programming is full of inclusion.
And for our parents and caregivers, let's listen to our PSA from Miss Nikki all about inclusion. Miss Nikki, are you ready?
I am ready. So first off, I looked up the definition of inclusion, and it is the action or state of including or of being included within a group or a structure. And that's one thing that whenever I was in the schools doing positive action lessons, we talked about that everybody, I don't care what age you are, everybody wants to be included or feel like they belong. So it's really important. Now, how do you teach it? I think you just have to show it. Kids learn from what they see, like we mentioned earlier, and that's just really important to be understanding and listen and open.
That's right, Miss Nikki. They learn from what they see, right? And so if our kids see inclusion in their community, then when they're adults, they'll be doing the same thing for their kids too. That's my hope, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, it's time for announcements. What did I miss? Let me see. Anything going on?
Tell us any important news for our community to know?
Well, there is something from the partnership. Are you ready to have some fun this summer? It's time to register for our 6th annual MC After 3 summer camp to be held at Cape and State Park for 2 weeks, July 27th and the next week, August 3rd. It's from 8 a.m. to 3. The camp is for Morgan County students entering grades 6 through 12 for this school year, and it's free. Free, did you hear that? It includes breakfast, lunch, and a snack, all provided. Now, guys, the space is limited, so get your registration to Summer Galler, care of the Morgan County Board of Ed at 247 Harrison Avenue in Berkeley Springs, or you can email mcafter3@yahoo.com. Now, you can either attend both weeks or one or the other. Just indicate your choice, and you'll be contacted by July 15th. Now, it's coming up. Wow, that is coming up. Oh, okay. And what's next?
I saw on Facebook for our high school students that the Berkeley Springs High School yearbooks have arrived. So if you placed an order, you can stop by on Wednesday, July 8th from 1 to 4, or Tuesday, July 14th from 10 to 1 to pick yours up. If you didn't order one, I think they have a few extra copies available for $70. You just need to send a message to Mr. Bittinger at rbitting@k12.wv.us or stop by the school.
Next, if your child turns 4 by June 30th, it's time to register now for Head Start and Pre-K. July 13th and 22nd, there will be a drive-through registration from 9 to 2:30 at the Head Start Center located near Widmeyer and across from Dollar General.
Also, for our final announcement, the governor had some big news this week. Did you guys hear it? I did too. And I saw it. If you're looking for an update, it's also on the Morgan County Health Department. And this is pretty important, guys. It's about indoor face covering requirements. And here's what it says: face coverings now must be worn in all public indoor places where social distancing cannot be maintained. It does not apply to children under the age of 9 or anyone who has trouble breathing or otherwise unable to remove the mask without assistance. And this order from the governor in West Virginia took effect on July 7th. So if you have any concerns or questions about this, the health department has provided great resources to help the community. And guys, the guidelines are also offered in Spanish now too. I like that too, that they're in Spanish, because that's sort of like our word this week. It is inclusive of everybody in our community, and we want to help everybody stay healthy. And of course, this is all relative to the current situation with the pandemic. So face masks, coverings are something we need to see out in public these days too.
That's awesome. Providing resources in multiple languages is a positive action that illustrates inclusion and unity.
You're right, Violet. Thanks. Absolutely. Now, guys, it's almost time to go. And we're going to wrap up our series with our audiobook. Are you ready, Violet?
Hey, community from 2 to 92, young and old. It's been fun podcasting with you today. We hope you find some positive actions out in the world this week. And when you do, tell us about it. Email your story to share to Angie@morganpartnership.org. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. I had a lot of fun today, too. And remember, neighbors, if you have a need at your house, the Morgan County Partnership's here to help you connect and find the resources to build strong relationships at home and to unify our community.
Thanks, community, for joining us. And it is time to close with our really cool segment in our program. Are you ready?
Sure. Last week, I read Chapter 2 of Austin Channing Brown's book, I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness.
That's right. The book is the summer pick from Reese Witherspoon's book club.
This week, Violet will continue with Chapter 3. It's called The Other Side of Harmony. And if you missed any chapter, it is so easy to catch up. Just join our app and listen to the podcast each week.
I saw I'm Still Here reviewed from the New York Times bestseller and Reese's Book Club and Hello Sunshine book pick. It is a leading voice on racial justice and eye-opening account of growing up Black, Christian, and female.
Sounds great. Are you guys ready?
Yep, I'm ready. I've always wanted to have a book club too, guys, and hearing diverse stories does help us raise empathy and understanding right here in our community.
Remember, we will be back next week for more Morgan County Partnership Program and community news and Chapter 4, Ain't No Friends Here.
That's great. So concluding the podcast, it's I'm Still Here. Today's Chapter 3, The Other Side of Harmony. Let's go, Violet.
I'm Still Here. Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. Chapter 3, The Other Side of Harmony. Much like my elementary school, the Catholic high school I attended was predominantly white, but by then there were enough students of color to fill multiple tables at lunch, form a gospel choir, and generally make our presence known. To tell the truth, I don't remember any major racial incidents happening in any of the 4 years I was there. No swastikas on bathroom stalls, no fistfights prompted by an overconfident white boy using the N-word, no blackface parties or inappropriate Halloween costumes. For the most part, we all existed in harmony, but there were a few key moments in which I learned that harmony, the absence of outright conflict, often leaves deeper complications untouched. Miss Phillips' classroom was a favorite for students. She was short with a square frame and a foul mouth, which was intriguing since she taught our religion class. She mostly donned mom jeans and oversized shirts. She had a big laugh and told big stories, and she taught from behind her podium. Her energy filled the room. Miss Phillips gave us life lessons right alongside the curriculum, and sometimes instead of her curriculum. She told us about living in community with other single women, sharing resources, prioritizing friendships and intimacy. There was nothing we couldn't ask her. One day, after Miss Phillips told us about her fear of ghosts, we stole the remote to the classroom TV and spent the next period turning it on and off. At first, Miss Phillips had us made, convinced we had figured out a way to control the television. But as the class wore on and the TV continued turning on and off, she started testing it. "If you are my uncle, turn off now," she countered. Off went the TV. She turned to us, eyes wide, and kept testing it by calling out the names of dead relatives. Minutes later, when we burst into laughter and revealed the truth, she wasn't mad at all. In fact, she dubbed us the best class she ever had. One day, it was Miss Phillips who caught us off guard. As we filed into her classroom, she announced that she would no longer use a seating chart. For the first time, she scanned the room, deciding where we wanted to sit. Once we were settled, she informed us that she wanted to share why we suddenly had been given permission to choose our seats. There was something uncharacteristically soft about the way she spoke. "Every year I use a seating chart," she began, "deciding where each of you will sit. Earlier this week I realized that my tendency to do this is racist." I froze. There was another classroom in which I was perhaps one of 3 students of color. I had no idea what was coming next, but I suddenly became very aware of my body. "You see," she continued, "I have been using a seating chart to separate black students. I didn't fully realize it until I failed to separate 2 black young women in one of my classes. When I saw them together, I panicked, thinking, great, now they're going to laugh and talk through the entire period." She paused. She was clearly overwhelmed, yet making an effort to be forthcoming as she would be with anything else. She did not mince words or sugarcoat any part of her thinking. That's when I realized what I was doing was racist. I have never ever wondered if any of my white students were going to be disruptive. I've never been nervous to find 2 white girls sitting next to one another. I'm so disappointed with myself, and from now on, you all will sit where you want to sit. She took a deep breath, and so did I. I'm guessing there was plenty of classes in which Miss Phillips had to separate 2 white students for being disruptive. However, by her own admission, this tendency towards disruption was never attributed to their race. Only when the disruptive students were black did race become a defining factor. While I was grateful that she'd had an epiphany, or at least wanted to be grateful, the revelation made me incredibly self-conscious. I thought so much of Miss Phillips, I wasn't prepared to hear what she had thought of me, of my body. The stereotype about sassy, disrespectful black girls was not lost on me. But until then, I had thought it was just a convenient movie trope. I didn't realize it could be used against me. I looked around the classroom to gauge the response of the other students. No one had much to add. I think most of them were just glad to be able to sit wherever they wanted. But I was having an entirely different experience. Should I have been glad for my teacher's aha moment? Did it make me safer in her classroom now that she was aware of her bias? What about the other teachers at my school? Were they, even the ones I liked, watching me, judging me? It was the first time I saw beyond my own perception of the racial harmony at my school. I was grateful that I didn't have to deal with overt acts of racism, but it was better to know that teachers silently believed I would be a nuisance unless I proved otherwise. How could I know if beneath other amicable interactions, the stereotypes and biases of those in power were operating against students who looked like me? This moment of disappointment made me even more determined to assert agency over my academic life. For the most part, my defiance manifested itself in demanding the right to explore blackness. Book report due? I was choosing a black author. History paper assigned? Black history was the only option for me. Like many black students in predominantly white schools, if I wanted to see myself reflected in the curriculum, I had to act on my own behalf. Resisting an education built on a white worldview meant constantly having to evaluate the risks of telling the truth or furthering the myth. Would I write that Christopher Columbus discovered America? Would I do the report on Malcolm X instead of Mark Twain? My parents left the decision to me. I could choose the better grade, or I could choose to affirm blackness. It's a decision that many students of color have to make. Sometimes I just stated the truth. Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, but the land he discovered was already inhabited. Other times, I would give the answer the teacher wanted with a disclaimer. Our textbook states that, I won't lie, I kind of enjoyed being more right than my teachers, even if it cost me half a letter grade. So it was a rare gift when I could walk into a classroom that didn't require this kind of work from me. Mr. Slavinsky's class was like that. Mr. Slavinsky was my freshman English teacher and the first to expose me to the power of an intentionally diverse curriculum. He was short, white, and full of energy. Whether natural or from coffee, we couldn't tell. He kept a warm pot in his classroom at all times. On the first day of class, Mr. Slee informed us that his goal for the year was to give us headache from thinking so hard, and he often succeeded. There was passionate discussions of Richard Connell's The Most Dangerous Game, line-by-line readings of Shakespeare, and assignments to analyze the character development in Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. Through all of this, Mr. Slavinsky inspired us to interrogate the assumptions we held about culture, ethics, laws. He wanted us to color outside the lines of our black and white thinking. Mr. Slavinsky's lesson plans would follow our textbook for a few weeks and then break away for the sake of diversity. One of those breakaways was a unit on poetry. Each day, Mr. Slavinsky printed out poems he'd selected, instructing us to read them and mark up the page. What words stood out? What did we notice about the structure? How did the content make us feel? One day, Mr. Slavinsky passed out a poem entitled, We Wear the Mask. I started reading immediately. The author's name, Paul Laurence Dunbar, was familiar to me. My stepmom worked as a high school English teacher and was always eager to recite black poetry to me, so I knew we were about to read a poem about the black experience. Still, my eyes widened as I read the words, Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. A mask. My mind raced, wondering how often I did this without much thought. Were the parts of me that I kept buried from white people, even the ones I counted as friends? Things did feel different when I was the only black girl in the class versus when I was surrounded by blackness at the lunch table or in our gospel choir. When I finished the poem, I felt both relieved and saddened. I looked up at Mr. Slavinsky, wondering, how do you know? When I realized he was about to open up the floor for discussion, I folded myself into the chair, trying to make my body smaller, trying to disappear. Will you make me explain this? Will you ask me to tell this all-white classroom about the mask that black people wear? I was surprised by my own reaction. It felt deeply gratifying to have my own experience named, lifted up, discussed, considered worthy of everyone's attention, and yet I had no desire to be the black spokesperson. It felt too risky. I wasn't sure that my classmates had earned the right to know, to understand, to be given access to such a vulnerable place in my experience. For me, this was more than an educational exercise. This is how we survive. It's a common conundrum for black children navigating mostly white classrooms. It is often expected, both by other students and by the teacher, that black students will have no problem acting as the race experts for their classrooms. Eventually, though, we begin to question whether we'll be safe when the subject comes up, or if we even have the right to speak on behalf of all black people. I mean, it's not like we have a committee meeting every Wednesday night to decide what we think about any given issue. But my first reaction in this moment possessed none of these thoughts. I simply was not interested in taking off the mask. Fortunately, Mr. Slavinsky didn't call on me to respond to Dunbar's words. Though we had not exchanged one word since the exercise began, I sensed that he respected my decision to keep my thoughts private. I listened in amusement as white students, many of whom possessed an intellect and creativity that I sincerely admired, attempted to interpret the poem. No matter how well reasoned their responses, they just couldn't know. But that didn't stop Mr. Slavinsky from challenging them. I was grateful that my teacher was equipped to navigate the conversation without making me the momentary substitute teacher. Mr. Slavinsky already had my respect, but that day he also gained my trust. He was able to redraw the boundaries of our comfort zone. Breaking the social policy of just ignoring race didn't have to end badly. I wished he could steer discussions in every classroom. I remember a religion class towards the end of my senior year when our teacher asked the students about our future plans. Most of us were bound for college in the fall, so the conversation gravitated towards talk of applications, scholarships, and possible majors, a discussion that led one white classmate to air her grievances about not being accepted to the University of Michigan. Rather than chalking it up to the sheer number of applicants U of M must receive in any given year, she had a different explanation. A black person must have taken her place, and not a black person who perhaps had above-average test scores, who'd completed more hours of community service, or perhaps had written a stronger biographical essay on the application. Had this been her assumption about the black people who earned spots at the university, I probably could have forgiven her, but alas, her explanation was short. Because of affirmative action, black people took my spot. Her spot. Or, if I were to add all that was left unspoken in her sentence, if the University of Michigan hadn't left unqualified black people in, I, who am obviously deserving and qualified above and beyond those people, would have easily been accepted. My blood boiled. I really wanted to hurt her feelings. I wanted to suggest that perhaps she was not as qualified as any of the students who were let in, black or otherwise. I wanted to tell her that if I was one of the applicants, I knew for a fact that I would get in before her, and it had nothing to do with the color of my skin. I wanted to tell her that no one stole anything from her, and that's what made it an application. My reaction surprised me. I had not applied to U of M, and yet her words stung as if I had personally offended her with access to the coveted university. In my mind, she wasn't just talking about a specific group of black students, she was talking about black people, all of us. That's why I wanted to hurt her feelings. She was telling me exactly what her thoughts about black people were, and I was ready to tell her about herself in return. Back then, I didn't have all the terminology I have now to process awkward interactions with white people. I didn't have phrases like white tears or white fragility, and I'm not sure I had even explored the term white privilege at that point in my life, but I was learning about these things all the same, not from theory, but from life. Our teacher completely froze as the tension climbed. But more concerning was that 4 years at a racially diverse school hadn't been enough to challenge my classmates' belief that whiteness, on its own merit, made her more deserving. Our school's racial harmony might not have created that assumption, but it didn't help her unlearn it either. A lack of confrontation had done her no favors. As high school came to an end, I took this lesson with me and became determined always to question what looks like unity at first glance.